Welcome to this tutorial on how to work with 360-degree video in SightLab. I'll show you how to add media, tag regions of interest, analyze the data, and view replays. Let's dive in step by step to create an immersive VR experiment. Note that for the 360 videos to properly play with SightLab, you may need the Lite Codec pack installed. I'll put a link in the description for where to get that. First, organize your 360-degree media files. Create a new folder or make a copy of the blank project folder, and then place your 360 videos in a subfolder inside your project directory, typically under resources/media. This keeps everything organized and easy to access. Now let's create a new SightLab project. Start the main SightLab script, and when prompted, select desktop for hardware configuration if just setting up the experiment. You can select your specific VR hardware when you are running the sessions. Next, create a new project by selecting New on the drop-down list and give your project a meaningful name. This project file will store all your experiment settings and configurations. Click the Modify button to open the Experiment Options Editor. In the Experiment Options Editor, switch the mode to 360 Media. This mode is specifically designed for working with 360 videos and images, enabling the necessary settings and tools. Next, we need to add our 360 media. Use the drop-down menu to select media from your resources/media folder. If needed, click Change to switch to a different folder, or use Built-in to access included resources. Configure the media options by setting the media type to either video or image and choosing the appropriate format. The videos can be stereo or mono, 360 or 180, and either videos or images. You can also use a virtual screen to display regular video content. See the example script virtual screen on how to do that. Now, we'll add regions of interest, or ROIs. Click Add or press the left Shift key to enter ROI tagging mode. A virtual gaze point will appear, allowing you to place ROIs. Move the virtual gaze point and press the 1 key to set a new region. You can name the region, adjust its scale and opacity, and set debug colors. Remember to reduce the opacity so that participants do not see these regions during the experiment. I'll discuss how to add moving ROIs later in the video. Let's configure and run our experiment. Set the number of trials and other parameters in the Trials section. Ensure that tracking is enabled to save data files and allow for the SightLab replay, or set it to off for practice trials. You can set start and end conditions, such as using a timer, a key press, any event, or also could just use the end of a media file to go to the next trial. Additionally, you can select different media for each trial. This could also even switch between 360 media and 3D models if desired. You can then set a label for each trial that will save to the data files and can be used to keep track of various trial modifications and conditions. We'll create 3 trials and choose a different 360 media for trials 2 and 3. You can use the drop-down to go to the various trials or use the up and down arrow buttons. The plus and minus buttons will remove or add trials. For advancing through trials, we'll set a timer of 10 seconds per trial with a 3-second cooldown between trials. The cooldown can be set by setting the start condition to a timer of 3 seconds. For the first trial, we'll just use a spacebar key press to start. Click Done when you are done configuring. On the next screen, you can set additional options such as whether you want to randomize the presentation of the media, set the thresholds to use for collecting fixations, saccades, dwell time, and view counts, as well as the optional noise reduction. Under Options, you can choose if you want to save a video recording in addition to the interactive session replay, and whether you want to send signals to synchronize with BIOPAC physiological sensors. So you can record things such as heart rate, skin conductance, EEG, F, NIR, and more. When you are done, you can save the completed experiment. You can now run this as a session if you want to preview how it will look. You can either just run it in desktop mode to test things out or run it in a headset. This will work with both eye-tracked and non-eye-tracked headsets. Enter participant details and start the experiment based on your configured start conditions. As you run the session, you will see real-time view count and dwell time data on the mirrored view as well as events in the BIOPAC software, if being used. The gaze point is off for the participant by default and only viewable on the mirrored screen. You can toggle viewing this with the P key. After completing the trials, you can analyze the data. Use the session replay mode to view analytics such as heat maps, scan paths, and dwell time. So as I run this, you can see those visualizations, and I can scrub through the timeline with the slider. I can also toggle any of them on or off, or adjust intensity and other parameters. Your data files, including trial data, experiment summaries, and trial timelines, will be saved in the data folder. You can further analyze these files to gain insights into participant behavior. Some of the data recorded includes fixations, saccades, dwell time, eye gaze position, both individual and combined eye, head position, time to first fixation, and much more. You can now also bring in a recorded video to the BIOPAC Acknowledge software to see how the physiological data matches up with what a user was experiencing. Now, to set moving regions of interest for 360 videos, you can use the example 360 moving regions of interest. First, set the first region as you normally would in desktop mode using the GUI. Give the region a name. I'll call this one player 1. I'll set the end condition to be the end of the media and the start condition to be the spacebar. Now you can just run it, and for the participant ID, put in regions, so you can easily find the session in the next step. Since you are running this in desktop mode with the virtual gaze point, it may help to toggle on the mouse lock feature by pressing the semicolon key. This will lock the focus of your mouse to this window. You can also toggle it off by pressing the semicolon again. Now, as you run the session, you need to follow the object you want to set as a moving region with your virtual gaze point. The next step is to run the script, 360 moving regions of interest replay, to capture the movement points of the region. To make it easier to see the gaze point, I'll toggle off the various visualizations I don't need. Now I can press the 1 through 9 number keys to set points. I will use the slider at the bottom to scrub through the video and set the first point at right when the movement starts. You always need a first position. Next, I'll add a few more points where the movement changes position. This will save to a data file called moving regions that will keep track of the position of these points as well as the time difference between points. You can also adjust the scale of the region manually in the data file. Sometimes this is necessary to keep the region the same size as it moves through the rounded sphere. Afterwards, I can also use the data file to fine-tune the points if needed. On the main session script, I can edit the name of the region, add more regions, adjust the opacity of the region, and more. Now, if I run this, it will show the region moving along with the player. And if I turn the opacity down, it will look like this to the participant. If you do not want a participant running the session to see the GUI options that can edit the experiment, you can edit the code by clicking on the button that has the name of your script. This will open the built-in Python editor wizard. Set config path equals, followed by the path to your saved config file. If you don't remember the name of the config file or path, you can right-click on the script tab and select Open Containing Folder. From here, you can double-click on the SightLab configs folder and find your config file. You can then highlight and copy the name. You can also access your project folder by clicking on the folder icon in the main SightLab GUI. If the config file is in the default folder, write SightLab_configs/ and then the name of the file you highlighted, followed by .stlb. See the documentation on how to run blocks of trials as well, but basically you can just set repetitions also in the code next to config path. Now, if I wanted to, I could also publish this as an executable, which would allow someone that doesn't have SightLab installed to run it as a participant. You see the documentation I'm publishing to an exe on how to do that. I should also mention that this all works for multiple user sessions as well. Additionally, there are many more features and options that can be added. See the example scripts for more information. These include things such as adding user instructions, rating scales, recording facial expression data, adding a 3D menu, interacting with AI large language models, adding avatars, and much more. And that's it. You've successfully set up and run an experiment with 360-degree videos in SightLab, including adding static and moving ROIs and analyzing the collected data. For further customization and advanced features, refer to the SightLab documentation and example scripts. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.